Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
The ward was quiet, clean, and comfortable, almost like home. This is not surprising because it was a paid ward. Only rich women in labor went there. Emily was just one of them. The girl was 24 years old, outwardly pretty, with a pleasant open smile and kind eyes. Her character was calm and flexible. But now Emily didn't look like herself. She was nervous, walked back and forth, and couldn't find a place for herself. It's no joke. The woman was preparing to become a mother. And what's more, she was expecting triplets. Such a case was very rare for their maternity hospital and the city as a whole. So doctors circled around her, constantly listening and palpating her huge belly, taking endless tests, and deciding at a consultation whether to give her a cesarean section or not. Emily was very afraid of the operation and wanted to avoid it with all her might, but the obstetricians doubted that she could handle it on her own. All this greatly exhausted the woman in labor, but Emily was even more frightened by the fact that in reality, she would become a single mother, even though she had a fictitious husband. Oh, what a complicated story it is, and it's all because of her strict father. As soon as she lay down and dozed off for a while, all the events of her difficult life immediately came to mind, and these thoughts made her feel completely sick. The thing is that Emily was the adopted daughter of her rich father, the famous businessman Eugene. He adopted her at the age of 5 and never hid it. On the contrary, he was rather proud of his action. The girl remembered almost nothing about that other life in the orphanage, only some fragments. The screams of the shrill, nasty nanny Aunt Polly, the tasteless, unleavened soup, and the constant poking and teasing of the children. Since that time, Emily has become accustomed to submitting, obeying her elders, and not contradicting them. This is what happened after the adoption. Of course, now she lived in a luxurious mansion. She no longer had to hide bread and sweets under her pillow because there was plenty of everything, and she didn't want for anything. But her father was too strict and demanding. Her whole life was planned out as if by notes, just as her dad saw fit. The girl went to school like clockwork, then to swimming and English sections and only then home, and so on day after day. Emily studied excellently. Fortunately, it was easy for her, but still, she was just a child. Sometimes she wanted to play pranks, frolic with the kids, run around in the yard, or sleep to her heart's content until lunchtime and skip school at least once. But Dad did not approve of such pampering and strictly ensured that his daughter studied diligently and corresponded to his status. After school, there was university. Emily did not make a mistake here either. She graduated with honors. No companies or nightclubs. Dad didn't approve of that. Her father tried to instill in her business acumen, told her how to run a business, and how to protect herself so that competitors would not crush her. But then a complete fiasco awaited him. Emily was too soft, quiet, and flexible, and did not fit into the ranks of entrepreneurs. Then Eugene changed his tactics and began to insist on Emily's quick marriage and the birth of heirs. He needed to hand over his life's work to someone in his old age, since his daughter was not capable of leading it. Eugene didn't hesitate for long, and he himself found a promising groom for his daughter, Oliver Brown, the governor's son. He had long ago calculated all the prospects for such a relationship, and was already rubbing his hands. Emily did not dare to contradict her strict dad and began dating a major guy. At first, sympathy even arose between the young people. But it soon became clear that they were completely different, like heaven and earth. Oliver was very hot-tempered, sharp, loved extreme sports, and needed thrills in literally everything like air. Emily was completely different. It was alien to her and frightened her. She loved to take a quiet walk in the park, read in silence, and listened to calm music. In clubs and at rock star concerts, where Oliver regularly took her, she felt so sick. Her head hurt from loud music and noisy crowds, and she wanted to run away. Oliver was mortally bored at home. He was freaking out and soon started an affair with a cool biker girl, Mia. So the couple ran away, unable to start a family. Eugene was indignant and bullied Emily. "What is this? You can't work in my field and don't want to get married. I missed such a groom." "Well, how can it be? You know what, my dear, do what you want. But give me my grandson, okay? Tomorrow we will go to the reproduction center. I made an agreement with an excellent professional doctor. He will examine you and tell you whether you can give birth or not. You lived with Oliver for 6 months, and you still didn't get pregnant. Maybe you have some problems. At first, Emily was very offended by her dad. It seemed to her that he was rudely meddling in her life and had already gotten to the point of women's health. He treated her like a doll. She was so tired of everything. But out of habit, the girl submitted again and agreed to go for a consultation. She herself was worried. Why was this? After a long and thorough examination, the professor rendered a verdict that killed Emily on the spot. Listen to me, my dear. Sit down. What I'm going to tell you now will probably upset you very much. You have congenital anomalies, which is why you will never be able to get pregnant. Alas, Emily burst into tears out of surprise. She certainly did not expect to hear such a thing. Will she never be able to become a mother? But the doctor consoled her. Well, that's enough. Don't cry. Everything is not as hopeless as it seems. Medicine has moved forward a long time ago, and now nothing is impossible. Yes, you can't get pregnant naturally, but that's why IVF was invented. We will take the material from you and your partner and transfer it to the uterus, and then you can handle it yourself. Yes, I won't lie, it's expensive, but there is a great chance of giving birth to twins or even triplets at once. Just in case we transfer several embryos. Believe me, we have 85% successful outcomes. Hundreds of families have successfully become parents. So don't despair, you have this chance. Emily smiled through her tears. Thank you, doctor, you really gave me hope. As soon as I get married and make up my mind, I'll come to you right away. Goodbye. But it's too early to think about it, I don't even have a boyfriend. The girl did not even suspect that her father was standing outside the office door and heard their entire conversation with the doctor. Eugene seemed to be obsessed with this idea. He literally raved about his grandchildren and kept trying to persuade Emily to take this crazy step. At first, the girl denied it. Dad. Well, how do you imagine this? We broke up with Oliver. I don't even have a candidate for a father. What other children? From whom? Who will be the baby's dad? And why is there such a rush? I'm not 40 years old after all. But the businessman just got excited. Daughter, dear, try to hear and understand me. Yes, you are not 40, but I am already in my 60s. I adopted you at a respectable age. I raised you like my own. You never knew no for anything. The best tutors, expensive things and phones. And now I ask for such a small thing, to give me a grandson in my old age. Well, the doctor told you that you won't be able to get pregnant on your own anyway. So why wait? I will personally look through the donor database, study their dossiers, and choose the best. If not now, then when? You understand, I may not have time to raise my grandson to his feet, understand? And then what? Will my empire, built over the years, collapse or go to competitors? Don't worry, I'll arrange everything in the best possible way. I'll even find a fictitious husband, so that he can sometimes appear in public with you. Nobody will suspect anything. And then we'll tell everyone that you divorced him. Is that a problem? Come on, agree. I beg you. Emily couldn't wrap her head around such wildness. It seemed to her that everything her father had planned was unnatural, and nothing good would come of this idea. It turns out that Dad uses her as a tool for the birth of grandchildren, nothing more. And for some reason, this made her so sad, so sick. Again, he decided everything for her. But on the other hand, there was some truth in his words. Emily didn't want to and was very afraid to remain childless. And if she gives birth to a son or daughter, there will be joy in her life. So what if it's from someone else's man? How many cases are there when the groom abandons the bride, and she is already pregnant, and nothing, they live somehow, and then get married again? In general, after thinking about all this, Emily, as always, gave in to her father and agreed to the IVF procedure. Everything went surprisingly well. Emily became pregnant on the first try. But when the ultrasound revealed that all 3 embryos had implanted and triplets would be born, the girl was stunned. She, of course, dreamed of becoming a mother, but not of having 3 children at once. Emily was definitely not ready for this. But Eugene was jubilant. Well, of course, 3 heirs at once, especially since 2 of them are boys. Isn't this happiness? The businessman seemed to have a second wind. He began to make plans for the future, surrounded his daughter with care, literally forced her to eat vitamins, bought only environmentally friendly farm products, and made sure that Emily went for walks and was examined on time. 2 weeks before the birth, for reinsurance, he put her in this elite maternity hospital. You never know, maybe contractions would start earlier, but here she was under the supervision of experienced doctors. But the further Emily walked, the sadder she became. A sticky fear literally rolled over her, and thoughts were confused in her head. How will the birth go? Will there really be an operation? How will I even cope with 3 kids? Will I be able to love them at all? Lord, why did I agree to this adventure? I feel like a walking incubator. Dad, as always, decided everything for me. Well, how long will this last? I haven't even really loved once. Oliver doesn't count, that was also Dad's decision. It feels like I'm not living my own life, but my dad's, and no one has cared about my desires since birth. From all these thoughts and sad memories, Emily suddenly began to feel a tug in her stomach, a sharp tingling sensation in her side, and suddenly it was as if an ocean had spilled out on the bed under her. The girl got scared and screamed heart-rendingly, "Help! I'm giving birth. Sister!" Immediately, everyone came running to her scream. A commotion began. They called her doctor, whom her father had hired long before the birth, and it began. If Emily knew how painful and scary it was to give birth, she would definitely take back all her words that she categorically refused an operation. 4 hours of hellish pain and torment, the professionalism and endurance of the doctor, and finally 3 babies were born one after another: Boris, Victor, and Julia. The names were also invented by the father in advance. Emily just named the girl as she wanted. When the babies were put to her chest one by one, Emily suddenly melted, and all her doubts went away somewhere. How can you not love them? Those familiar beady noses and eyes? The babies sniffled, trying to grab their breasts, and tears of happiness flowed down Emily's cheeks. No, after all, children are a miracle. They immediately called my father and told him the good news. He screamed and cried into the phone. He was so happy. And Emily, exhausted by long labor, finally fell into oblivion. The days flew by quickly and discharge was soon planned. Of course, the father took care of everything in advance, and envelopes with clothes for the babies were already waiting in the ward, and Emily suddenly became sad. After all, she was not blind or deaf, and she heard nurses and orderlies gossiping about her in the corners. This rich girl is strange. She gave birth to triplets. But who is the father of the children? No word. Silent like a fish. Her father only fusses around her, that's all. Apparently, she's had a lot of fun. She's shameless. And she looks so quiet. It's not for nothing that they say that there are devils in a quiet swamp. Oh, and the youth have gone. Nothing is sacred. These gossip made Emily feel uneasy. Her soul was so upset. She wanted to shout to everyone that she was not shameless at all, and she didn't walk, or at least make sure that it was not her father who picked her up from the hospital, but some man. Wiped them all off. She reprimanded her father on the phone. "Where is your fake husband, Dad? Why isn't he around now? Do you even know what they're saying about me here? It's a shame to even retell it." Eugene only made excuses. "Yes, there was a problem with my husband. He took the money, and the bastard himself went abroad with it. Such a bastard. Apparently, I was afraid that I would actually force you to get married. It's okay, don't worry so much, daughter. I don't care about this women's gossip. And don't worry about it, otherwise the milk will disappear. I will meet you as expected. I'll even hire a limousine. Think about the children, and the rest is my concern." Emily hung up the phone in frustration. Well, of course, Dad, as always, is in his repertoire. Just think, I don't care what she's worried about. And then one rather crazy plan, completely out of character for her quiet demeanor, matured in her head. From the very morning, Emily fed and changed the babies, and put them to bed. Then she called the nurse, Lisa, over to her and began to whisper, "Honey, help me. Let me go for half an hour. At least I'll go outside, breathe some air, and run into the store for a minute. Anyway, the kids will sleep for at least another hour. Just look after my kids, please, while I'm gone." Lisa stared at her, dumbfounded. "What are you talking about, Emily? This is a maternity hospital, not a walk-through yard. We have sterility. It's not supposed to be like that. I'll be damned if anyone finds out. What if you don't come back at all? What then?" Such cases also happen. After giving birth, a woman's consciousness changes. Maybe you have postpartum depression, you never know. Emily took out a large bill from her wallet and put it in the nurse's pocket. And so? Is that also not allowed? Don't talk nonsense. Where will I go? You know whose daughter I am. Well, today is still a day off, there is no one, and the doctor on duty is still in another department. I found out everything. I'm fast, one foot here, the other there. Well, I really need to go out. After rustling some money in her pocket, the nurse went about her business, waving her hand. Go. But if suddenly everything is revealed, I didn't see you and didn't let you go. And come back soon, don't let me down, please. I'll look after the kids, don't worry. Emily kissed her babies, straightened the blanket, hastily got dressed, and quietly went out into the street. She crossed the road and looked around. She was so absorbed in her idea that she was ready for any madness. She noticed a young, handsome guy walking towards her. She immediately rushed to him and started babbling. Excuse me, what's your name? Can I ask you something? The guy raised his eyebrow in surprise. Tyler, what? What's the matter? Do we know each other? Emily began to explain confusingly. My name is Emily. I have a huge request to ask you. You see, I gave birth to triplets the other day. I'll be discharged soon, but there's no one to take me. That's how it happened. Could you play my husband for an hour? Take me from the maternity hospital so everyone can see, and I will pay you generously. And then we'll just go in different directions and that's it. You don't lose anything, you earn on the contrary. The guy twisted it at his temple. Are you completely cuckoo? Are you not all at home? No, I don't play such games. I know you like that, cunning girls, first for fun, and then you'll hang your children on me, put my name on the documents and force me to pay alimony. I don't need such surprises. Sorry, I have to go, I'm in a hurry. And the young man quickly retreated, quickening his pace. Emily fell into despair. Really, what did she expect? That the first person she meets will agree to take her from the maternity hospital? What nonsense. But how she didn't want the entire staff of the department to stare out the windows, watching her father take her away and wash her bones again. What should she do? And suddenly she noticed a young man in the distance. He was going through the contents of a trash can, looking for empty containers. Emily took a closer look at him. The guy was young, seemingly the same age as her. Pleasant looking, not a drunkard. Yes, poorly dressed, old worn jeans and a checkered shirt, worn out dusty sneakers. But he's not exactly homeless. It's clear that he's been wandering recently. Should she take a risk? Although it's really a shame, if a stranger comes to pick her up, then it's probably better for her father. The stranger noticed that Emily was looking at him intently and thoughtfully. He looked up from what he was doing and politely asked, "Good afternoon, young lady. Why are you looking at me like that? Have you identified yourself, or do you need any help? You look as if you are on the edge of an abyss. There is just hopelessness in your eyes." Emily suddenly made up her mind and asked, "Yes, you are right. I really need help. Do you want to earn big money in just 1 hour?" The guy jumped up. Who doesn't want to? I'm ready for any feat for the sake of such a beauty, only if it's legal. Otherwise, I don't need problems with the police. I have enough of my own. Emily exhaled, took a risk, and told the stranger everything. At the end, she added, "Here, Michael, keep your bank card." She wrote the PIN code on a piece of paper. "Withdraw money, get yourself in order. Buy a nice suit, flowers, balloons, and tomorrow at exactly 11, you will wait for me near the maternity hospital, and call a taxi at this time. If you play the role of a spouse well, I'll pay extra. You agree?" The guy smiled. "Of course, the request is more than strange, to be honest, but I desperately need money, you see. So I will do everything in the best possible way, no doubt. I won't let you down." Emily smiled too. "Well, good, then see you tomorrow." "I'll wait. I don't know why, but I believe you. It's time for me to run to the children. Bye, see you tomorrow." The woman rushed back to the maternity hospital. Thank God, they didn't miss her and the children were fast asleep. Everything went smoothly. Her heart was literally jumping out of her chest. For the first time in her life, she allowed herself to disobey her father and do it her own way. In the few minutes that they talked with Michael, Emily fell in love with him, and with some inner instinct, she understood that he would not deceive her. He would not disappear with her card. Although the risk, of course, was great, but what's done is done, there's no turning back. Emily called her father and said that the discharge was due at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Emily really wanted to believe that tomorrow, like all other women in labor, a handsome man would be waiting for her at the gates of the maternity hospital, and not her dad. Even if it's not her husband, even if they've only known each other for 5 minutes, but everyone will see that she's not alone and hasn't had enough time for her children. But someone needs it, even if it's for fun. This crazy impulse of hers was more a cry of despair than a simple whim of a rich lady, because Emily, like any woman, desperately wanted to be loved and happy. Her father always drove her into strict boundaries, imposing what only he needed, and she could not escape from these snares. The day of discharge arrived. Emily was excited in the morning, in anticipation of this event. At exactly 11, she went out into the street with the kids and began to look around in confusion, her eyes searching for Michael among those greeting them. And then she saw a different picture. 2 policemen were leading her hired husband by the arms. He was in full regalia, in an expensive, beautiful suit, with a huge bouquet of flowers and balloons. Washed and combed, with a fashionable haircut, the guy looked fresh and didn't look like a vagrant at all. But why are the police here? What is going on? Emily was perplexed. The nurses also prepared to watch this performance. It's not every day you see something like this. One of the law enforcement officers turned to Emily. "Good afternoon. You must be Emily Kowalsk. This citizen withdrew money from someone else's card, namely from your personal card, and the amounts were decent. Tell me, did he steal it from you?" "Vigilant citizens informed us. But your friend swears that he is your husband. Is this all true?" Emily nodded her head, trying to appear casual and carefree. "Oh, sorry, there was a misunderstanding. Yes. This is my husband, Michael, that's right. And I gave him the card myself, so it's okay. Excuse me, we are having a celebration, so we are taking the kids home. We have triplets. Can we go home?" The policeman was embarrassed. "Excuse us. Congratulations. Apparently we were too careful with our vigilance. All the best to you." The police left, and Michael, as if nothing had happened, rushed to hug Emily, handed her a bouquet of flowers, and took 2 of the babies from the nurse in his arms, while Emily took the 3rd. The guy chirped, "Honey, thank you for our children. Forgive me that I couldn't come from a business trip earlier, you understand, it's business. How I love you, my dear. Well, are we going home? How do you feel?" The couple got into a taxi and left, and the staff were surprised and gossiped for a long time. No one expected that this mysterious rich woman still had a husband. Emily was happy, despite the incident with the police. She was literally beaming because everything went so well. The young mother sincerely thanked Michael. "Thank you so much, Michael, you helped me out so much. In my opinion, everyone believed that you and I were a couple. You were just great, you stepped into the role of a husband. You don't have to return the card, withdraw the rest of the money from it. I still have it as a reserve. I don't keep large sums there, and you will need it. Well, here I am. Goodbye, good luck with everything." The guy became embarrassed and answered quietly. "I was very glad to help Emily, it wasn't difficult for me at all. And I really liked the role of the husband of such a beauty. It's a pity that this is all make-believe. I can't offer you anything, you're a princess and I'm a beggar. Good luck to you too, Emily, and your kids are wonderful. I really can't imagine how you'll cope with 3 at once. I was glad to meet you." So they went in different directions. Eugene Kowalski was literally speechless when he saw Emily and the children at home. He began to be indignant. "Daughter, how can this be? Did you come alone? For what? Why? We agreed on an hour. I was almost ready to leave." Emily just waved her hand. "The discharge was postponed, that's what happened. Do not worry, all is fine. Well, Grandpa, meet your long-awaited grandchildren. Take Boria's clothes, and I'll take Yulia and Vitalik. I don't even know how I'll be alone with the 3 of them. You will need to hire a nanny." The father immediately frowned and answered sharply, "Nothing, you can handle it. Learn to overcome difficulties, daughter. I'll hire a nanny, but for 3 hours, no more. There is no need for you to relax. You are a mother, so raise your children. What else should you do?" Emily was even offended. Her father said it like she was incapable of anything else. Why does he dislike her so much? He himself begged her to give birth to grandchildren, and now he decided to blame all the worries on her. Then Emily's life began to resemble complete hell, especially in the first 6 months. The kids didn't want to eat or sleep at the same time. Only one would fall asleep, the second would already scream, and so on in a circle ad infinitum. The kids had stomach pains, then they were cutting teeth. In general, there was too much trouble. The situation was slightly saved by the visiting experienced nanny, Halima Freeman. She saw that the young mother was on the verge, so she immediately gathered the kids for a walk, and Emily ordered, "Spit on everything and go to bed. Otherwise, you will soon fall off your feet. There's only one shadow left of you. I don't understand, Eugene. I could come for the whole day. It would be much easier for you, Emily. After all, it's not easy to raise 3 children on your own. And why is your father so stubborn, since I have repeatedly offered my services to him?" Emily just sighed and shrugged. "I don't know, Halima. I can't understand it myself. But I'm so tired, my eyes are just sticking together. I'll go lie down." And she instantly fell into a deep sleep. When the children were 6 months old, it became easier. They were already sitting and could occupy each other in the playpen, while Emily did household chores, and the girl had already gotten used to it and worked out her own daily schedule for herself. Everything seemed to work out. The father doted on his grandchildren. On weekends he tinkered with them with great pleasure, and kept waiting for them to go. One day the nanny got sick, and Emily went for a walk in the park with the children. Her legs themselves carried her to the path along which she once walked and met Michael. It was hard to believe, but he was here now, as if time had stopped. The guy diligently waved his brush and painted the benches. Emily called out to him first. "Michael, hello. So that's the meeting. How are you? I see you have already found a job. Well done." The guy was embarrassed and blushed but was clearly happy to meet her. "Hello, Emily, and you're getting better. You've lost as much weight as Thumbelina. And the kids have grown so much, Papa, such nice little ones. Your daughter looks a lot like you, but the boys look like their father, apparently." "What kind of work is this?" "A temporary part-time job has turned up. Anything is better than looking for bottles in bins. I'm so embarrassed, to be honest." Emily sat down on a bench, began to give the children some water, and carefully asked Michael, "Listen, why don't you find a normal job? Well, it's clear from you that you are a smart, normal guy. Why are you wandering around? Where do you sleep? Would you like to share? Maybe I can help you with something. Isn't it enough? Aren't you tired of such a nomadic life yourself? Just don't be offended, I just want to understand." Michael sighed heavily and suddenly began to share what was painful. Apparently he had long wanted to tell at least someone about it. "Yes, you're right, Emily, this is not life, but punishment, and I don't like living like this at all. But what can you do? It's your own fault. I grew up in an ordinary, normal family with my mother, and we had an apartment, albeit an old one. My father just wasn't there. I don't know anything about him, no matter how much I tried to find out. And my mother was very good. She loved me, a dunce, and pitied me greatly. All her life she worked as a cook in a canteen, and always brought me hot pies and other delicious things. She was only very tired because she raised me alone. But I didn't understand this. I played mischief with the yard boys. I didn't really want to study, and I kept demanding either a new phone or a computer. Mom stretched out with all her strength, also taking shifts on weekends, just so that I didn't need anything. But I still wanted a beautiful life, like on TV, to spend money left and right and not deny myself anything. After school, I graduated from technical school. My mother got me a job at a factory through friends as a turner. And I kept smarting, arguing with her, getting on her nerves, thinking that she was thinking in old stereotypes, and wouldn't let me turn around. Like, what kind of life is this, so miserable, to work hard for pennies? I wanted to do a lot at once, for example, to win the lottery or somehow get rich quickly and without any hassle. So I got involved with bad company, started drinking and gambling, and I became like a sick person, you know. I spent all my salary there, expecting that I was about to win a big jackpot and become a king. My mother was so worried about me, scolding me, trying to get through to me. But I didn't hear her at all. I just waved her off. So my mother couldn't stand it, couldn't watch me slide down, fell ill, and soon died of a heart attack. It's all my fault. I brought her down. When my mother was nearby, it was as if I didn't even notice her. But after her death, I suddenly came to my senses. The apartment immediately became so empty. No one asked with love anymore. How are you today, son? How are you doing? I love you so much. This eternal question of hers used to infuriate me so much. But now I would give anything just to hug my mommy. Well, I gave up gambling for a while, but my friends didn't lag behind. They followed on my heels, and I took up my old ways again. So in the heat of excitement, I lost my apartment, or rather, I lost to some bandits. And when I tried to return it with my fists, they beat me and told me to disappear forever. Otherwise, they threatened to strangle me. And to make sure I didn't run anywhere to complain about them, my passport was taken away. That's how I became homeless. It's good that at least a dilapidated house on the outskirts remained from my late grandmother, so just the name, and I live in it now. Without documents, of course, I can't get a job anywhere, so I work part-time here and there. That's how it is, princess. This is my retribution for everything I've done. Emily was shocked. She didn't understand. But the passport can be restored. Say that you lost it, you'll write a statement, and they'll give you a new one. Although you have to pay a fine, I'll give you money for it, don't worry. Michael scratched the back of his head. It's not about the money, although it's about it too, of course. I'm afraid of these scumbags, you know. They promised to kill me. But you're right, something needs to be decided. I'm so tired of this dog's life. Well, how are you? You still haven't made peace with the father of your children? Are you raising them alone? Hard, perhaps? Emily, too, without expecting it from herself, suddenly blurted out. And there was no father of the children. I, like the Virgin Mary, decided to have the Immaculate Conception. At the behest of my father, I agreed to the IVF procedure. They won't believe anyone in real life. You know, I'm rich, my father a lot of money, but does that make it any easier for me? And she told the guy everything from childhood, everything that had hurt so much over all these years. Why? She didn't even know. She just needed someone to listen to her. And at the end she added, but you know, despite all the difficulties, I love my children very much. And it doesn't matter who they are from. Mine, that's all. It's just a pity that now you can definitely give up on your personal life. Who will need me with such a trailer? Well, it's okay, I'll live for my little ones. I know this is my destiny. Here Michael was shocked by what he heard and said, well, wow. Yes, you are truly a mother heroine. Not everyone will dare to do this. Yes, your father is such a piece of fruit. Why is he treating you so harshly? Is this love? Looks like you and I are both unlucky. You've got a lot of things to do. You can't sort it out. You know, Emily, I'm so glad we met. I often remembered you because that first meeting of ours was like an amazing adventure. And it's so easy and good for me to be with you. Just sit and chat. It seems like a small matter, but how much easier it is on your soul. Emily smiled. That's for sure. How about we meet here in the park more often? The kids and I need to go for a walk every day, and you come tomorrow at 2 o'clock, and we'll chat again? Is it coming? So they began to see each other almost every day. They couldn't stop talking. It turned out that they were so similar in character. They'd had the same tastes in food, music, and films. Emily gave Michael an inexpensive phone, and now they were always in touch. Of course, soon Mr. Kowalski was informed that his daughter regularly met with some suspicious person in the park. The businessman was furious and gave Emily a real scolding. Daughter, are you out of your mind? Or did you completely lose your mind after giving birth? Why are you making friends with tramps? What business can you have with them? Why do I find out about this from strangers? I almost burned with shame when I heard this. Emily pressed her head into her shoulders and, out of habit, began to make excuses. Dad, please don't shout, otherwise you'll wake up the children. Michael is a good guy and we are friends. You know what he is like, polite, well-read. It's a pleasure to communicate with him. And he is a decent person, out of stupidity. Soon the documents will be restored, and it will be like everyone else. Mr. Kowalski became completely furious. Well, tell me, Emily, why are you not of this world? I found someone to be friends with. Maybe you actually fell in love with this homeless man? Please note that I forbid you to see him. Don't disgrace my surname if you bear it. Emily suddenly lost her temper, probably for the first time in her life, and went on the offensive. Your name is already in my throat, Daddy. It would be better if you left me alone then, in the shelter. Benefactor. You don't let me live. You don't let me breathe. Everything should be just your way. Don't you understand that you ruined my youth and ruined my life? You never once in my entire childhood asked me what I wanted. Yes, if you want to know, I hated swimming. This stupid thing, I'm still afraid of water. Is this eco? Were you thinking about me when you made me do this? Is this the love of a father for his daughter, who needs me now with 3 kids? Yes, I love my children, I live for them, but I'm only 24 years old, and I have the right to my privacy. Enough. Tired of it. This is my life, and I will date or be friends with whomever I see fit. The businessman was shocked. His daughter had never allowed herself to do this before. He clenched his fists and rasped, "Oh, how did you start talking? Ungrateful. This whole new friend has such an effect on you. It's okay, I'll fix it. Never leave the house. Sit with the children, it's your job." Emily cried bitterly and wandered into the nursery. Hearing Boris crying, she began to change his diaper. She felt so bad, so upset. Why doesn't Daddy love her? Why doesn't he want to hear her, understand her? Why doesn't he let her live? Will it always be like this? Mr. Kowalski was indignant, walked around the office, and feverishly thought about how to get his daughter away from this rogue. Otherwise, he'll really fall in love with him and drag him into the house, but that's not enough. And then he called the head of security to him and ordered, "Curtis, then listen here. Keep track of who my daughter meets in the park, and scare him well so that he doesn't approach her again. Tell him I'll put him in prison, and for what, I'll find him. These tramps are probably guilty of sins. Don't wait, this is very important." Emily, of course, did not listen to her father, and after a couple of days, she met with Michael again. She was so upset by her dad's behavior that she told her friend about everything. He just shook his head, then answered passionately, "You have a tyrant, not a father. Is it possible to push your daughter around like that? You know, Emily, after meeting you, I changed a lot, and now I look at life completely differently. I decided to start all over again, with a clean slate. Tomorrow I'll go to the passport office and sort out everything with the documents. Stop fooling around. I promise, as soon as everything is ready, I will immediately start looking for a decent job and will help you. I want you to leave your father and try to start your own life, not according to your dad's orders, but the way you want. I understand that with 3 kids it will be very difficult for you, but I will be there. Together we will cope. We both need to change something in our lives to become happy. What do you think?" Emily was amazed at how accurately Michael expressed her own thoughts and dreams and quietly answered, "It's my pipe dream that Dad would leave me alone and not interfere in my life. But I definitely won't dare to take such a desperate step alone. But if you're nearby, I would really like that. But let's first solve all your problems, and then we'll see. I really like you, Michael, honestly. We are kindred spirits, and I really hope that we won't part. Okay, it's time for me to run away. My buttons are already buzzing. It's time to eat." "Well, until the weekend then. I'll be looking forward to our next meeting, bye." Michael hugged her warmly, then stroked the children's cheeks. They were already smiling at him with all their might. He went home in high spirits, with the firm intention to change everything. Emily had literally turned his whole life upside down, bursting into it like a whirlwind. Now all his thoughts were only about her. He admired her courage and was amazed at her patience. He admired her sweet, open smile. He had never experienced such strong feelings for anyone in his life. It was not passion, not love, but something more. Deep spiritual affection and the fear of losing it. The guy didn't even suspect what was waiting for him at the turn to his own house. Some strong guys pounced on him, began kicking him and repeating, "Don't let you be near Kowalski's daughter. Don't go near her, okay? Otherwise you won't leave here alive." The guy closed himself, fell, and already losing consciousness, still whispered stubbornly, "You can do whatever you want with me, but I still won't leave her." Emily could barely wait for the weekend. She gathered the kids for a walk and went there with a smile, anticipating a meeting with Michael. She had so much news. Berenka and Vitalik just learned to crawl funny like a crab yesterday, and Yulia was already clearly saying mother and grandfather, and the kids' diathesis was almost gone, and this was also a small victory for Emily. She couldn't wait to share. But to her surprise, Michael was not near their favorite shop. She waited for him for an hour, walking back and forth with the kids, calling his phone, but there were no beeps. Emily was very upset and began to worry, wondering what could have happened. Why and where did Michael disappear? Then she decided to take a walk to his old house. She knew the address. It was very close. It was strange. There was a lock on the door. No one was there. And then Emily noticed trampled grass nearby, and also an obviously dried puddle of blood. Everything sank inside her. Emily, not remembering herself, began banging on the neighbor's door. An elderly gray-haired man came out. The young mother began to question him anxiously. "Excuse me, have you seen your neighbor, Michael?" "I can't reach him, and he's not at home." The neighbor sighed. "Yes, this happened here a couple of days ago, on Thursday. I was just leaving the store. I saw our Michael lying unconscious in a pool of blood, all beaten up. Well, I called an ambulance. They took him to the Third City Hospital, it seems. I feel sorry for the guy who did it to him like that." Emily's legs simply gave way. She felt sick. She immediately called a nanny, left the kids with her, and rushed headlong to the hospital. She thought only about one thing. "Lord, how is Michael? What about him? After all, he doesn't have documents. Who will treat him in good conscience? We need to help him. We can't leave a person in trouble." Emily spent a long time figuring out where the guy was placed. Finally, the nurse at the post found out everything and looked away, quietly saying, "I sympathize with you very much, but your friend fell into a coma yesterday. He had severe beatings and a concussion. He is on the verge of life and death." The woman cried and chattered. "Well, how can this be? What kind of non-humans beat him? He's so quiet. Maybe some medications are needed? I'll get everything. Just save him, I beg you." The doctor came out to her. They talked for a long time, and he promised to notify her of all changes in Michael's condition. Emily paid for all the procedures and care for him, and began to visit the guy in the hospital regularly. But they told her the same thing. The condition is critical. There is no dynamics. Prepare for the worst. Emily was sobbing. She could not come to terms with the fact that Michael might not survive. She prayed for his health and believed that he would recover. And she also hated those scoundrels who beat him so much. But trouble, as usual, does not come alone. A week later, the police came to the Cowles' house. Her father was taken away and accused of beating Michael. His deputy wrote a statement against him and provided a video taken on his phone of the beating of the guy. Emily couldn't believe what she heard and was hysterical. "Dad, tell me it's all not true. You couldn't do that, could you? How can you beat a person to death? For what? Answer me. I want to know the truth." The stunned businessman did not deny it and quietly answered, "Yes. I told my head of security to intimidate this guy so that he would leave you alone. But don't kill him. I didn't want this, daughter. I'm sorry." "Well, am I some kind of non-human?" Emily watched in shock as her father was taken away and whispered, "I hate you, Dad. You ruined my life again. You destroyed it. For what? How dare you? What did Michael do to you?" Eugene himself didn't understand anything. What kind of arbitrariness is this? After all, I only ordered verbal intimidation, not killing. Someone obviously set me up. This whole thing is sewn with white thread. But how to prove this to Emily? After all, his daughter now hates him, considers him a murderer. What if this unfortunate person really dies? What then? How much will they give me? God, what have I done, and why am I attached to him? Well, we talked and talked. It's all my ambitions to blame. I feel sorry for the guy. He's young, the same age as his daughter. Hard times have come for Emily. She was literally torn between the hospital and the children. Everything fell on her fragile shoulders. Although she was very angry with her father, she still gave him warm clothes and everything he needed in the isolation ward, and also hired a smart lawyer. She couldn't do it any other way. Emily had seen from early childhood and knew for sure that her father could be tough, strict, and cold sometimes, but he wouldn't lie. Under no circumstances did he hate lies. This means that someone really framed my dad. They deliberately beat Michael half to death in order to put my dad behind bars. One day, Emily was wandering from the hospital. She no longer had the strength to do anything. Michael was not getting better. The doctors just shrugged. Her father also suffered a nervous heart attack and was in the prison hospital. And 3 children were waiting for her at home, demanding attention. She decided to go to the temple for a while, light a candle, and order a prayer service for the health of Michael and her dad. After all, no matter how you look at it, these are the 2 closest people in her life. God forbid we lose them. She prayed so frantically, whispered from the soul, from the heart, asking not to take her loved ones away from her. Incredibly, the next day a real miracle happened. The doctor called Emily and said that Michael had woken up and come out of his coma. Emily couldn't believe it. She immediately went to the hospital to visit her best friend. The guy was still too weak. He only smiled weakly, looking at Emily. She sat next to him and told him everything that she had to go through during these days. Then she added, "Michael, my dad swears that he didn't give the command to beat you. He only asked me to talk seriously, so that you wouldn't come near me. He himself doesn't know why or who beat you so severely. I don't think he's lying. He has never lied to me about anything in his entire life. Dad had a heart attack in prison. I'm angry at him, it's true, and yet I feel sorry for him. He himself is confused. Gone too far. If you decide to file a complaint against him, I understand. You got it that way, you almost died, and my dad, whatever one may say, was involved in this." The guy quietly answered, "I won't write a statement. Don't worry. Everything will be fine. Thank you for being with me. They told me that you paid for my treatment. You are a wonderful, kind person, Emily. I have never met anyone like you. And your dad? I hope he himself will understand what he has done. Prison will not make him any kinder." Emily sobbed and whispered, "Thank you. I hope now Dad will be released. When will all of this be over?" "Like a bad nightmare. Keep in mind that I will not let you go to your dilapidated house, where there are no conditions and it's freezing cold. As soon as you are discharged, we will rent an apartment and start a new life, just as we dreamed of. If you don't mind, in the end I can sell my jewelry. We will definitely have enough for the first time." Michael nodded weakly and looked at her so tenderly. "I agree. Now everything will be different, believe me. We will have our own family, and no one will be able to stop us from doing this." Eugene was indeed soon released, since Michael did not write anything and did not make any claims against the banker. The man was happy. He finally walked out of the prison gates and breathed in the smell of freedom with pleasure. A jeep was waiting for him at the gate. The driver opened the door. The businessman thought that his daughter would meet him, but she was not there. Arriving home, he did not immediately realize that Emily's things were not at home, including the children's things. Both cribs and strollers. And on the table in the kitchen, there was a note. "Dad, don't look for me. Michael and I are together now. Accept this and don't ruin my life anymore. I don't deserve this." The businessman sat down on a stool as if knocked down and grabbed his head. "Old fool, idiot. So what have you achieved? What are you left with?" He kept putting pressure and pressure on his daughter, tempering her character. "And in the end, I lost both Emily and my grandchildren." The huge mansion suddenly became so empty and cold. The hooting and babbling of the kids could not be heard. No one prepared delicious breakfasts, and no one was waiting for him at home. At first, Eugene decided to figure out who set him up. He conducted his investigation and found out that his deputy was secretly working for competitors, and the beating of Michael was his doing. It was he who persuaded the head of the security service to do his own thing, to disobey the boss. "Like the owner is already old, we'll put him in prison, and then we'll go all out." Eugene drove the whole gang out onto but that didn't make it any easier. It was still sad at home. He desperately missed his daughter and grandchildren, and his conscience tormented him. Somehow, it all turned out not like a human being. He did his fault that he almost gave his soul to God. The businessman decided to correct his mistake and beg forgiveness from his daughter and Michael. Let them live, since they fell in love with each other. Finding out the address was not a problem, and he went to visit them. He was very worried about how he would be received. What if they won't even let you in the door? And they will be right. He did so many nasty things to his daughter, but it was all with good intentions. Emily was just feeding the whole family lunch. Michael was eating and praising the cabbage soup, and the kids in walkers were banging on the table with a spoon and trying to eat vegetable puree, comically smearing it all over their faces. Suddenly the doorbell rang. Emily tensed. Who could it be? We are not waiting for anyone. Maybe the landlady came for something. The young mother went to open the door and gasped on the threshold. Her father stood there with a large package and a bouquet of beautiful scarlet roses. He stomped around and timidly said, "Forgive me, daughter. I came to make peace. Will you let me in? Won't you send me away?" Emily's heart trembled. She had never seen her father like this before. No arrogance or superiority, and these meager words of forgiveness were so sincere. She couldn't stand it. She hugged him. "Come in, Daddy. Wash your hands. We are just having dinner. Now I'll pour you some cabbage soup." Michael looked sideways at the businessman in disbelief, still not fully believing that he really came to their house with good intentions, but he immediately began, "Wait, daughter. I'll eat later. I had something important to say. Michael, I am very sorry for you. I repent. But I did not order to kill you. I swear. Forgive me if you can. I'm to blame for both of you children. Too late I realized that happiness is different for everyone. Emily is not like me, like many others, and for a long time, I could not come to terms with this. I wanted to see her lively, assertive, so that she would take over my business. And I deliberately gave her such difficulties like exams. I thought that by overcoming them, she would strengthen her character. Emily, poor thing, endured and remained silent for so many years. And when I lost her, I suddenly realized how much I loved her. I miss you so much. How I miss my grandchildren. I've rethought everything, guys, and I won't bother you anymore. Honestly. Well, Michael, peace. The guy smiled and shook the businessman's hand. Peace, Eugene. I'm glad you understood everything. Emily, she is wonderful, amazing. I love her. And the kids too. Look what I taught them. Michael clapped his hands and the children clapped back, synchronously, first with one hand and then with the other. It was fun, and everyone laughed. Eugene took little Julie in his arms, then Boris and Victor began to hug and kiss them, and tears welled up in his eyes. My sweet ones, my darlings, how I missed you. Grandpa can't live without you. Then the businessman suggested, Michael, if you need help with documents, just tell me. I'll arrange everything in an instant. I have connections everywhere. Write me your details, year and place of birth, and I will speed up the issuance of a new passport. The guy was happy. Thank you, I'll be glad. I already went there 3 weeks ago, and things are still there. So write it down, Michael Davidson. Eugene froze with a notebook in his hand. What did you say, Davidson? Can't be. What's your mother's name? The guy hesitated. Stella Davidson. Mom has already died, unfortunately. Emily's father turned pale and clutched his heart. Emily got scared and brought Valadol and a glass of water. Dad, what's wrong with you? You feel bad? Here, drink some water. And dissolve Valadol. Heart again? Eugene came to his senses a little and began to talk confusingly. Oh, that was a long time ago. I was still a student as usual. I loved not only to study but also to run around with girls. I once had an affair with a girl, Stella Davidson. Hot, passionate, but short-lived. She was from a poor family and was raised by her grandmother. But my parents immediately disliked Stella and kept trying to persuade me to leave this simpleton. I then had to leave to work in the north for a long time. We broke up and our destinies diverged. I thought that my business trip was forced, but it turns out that my parents arranged all this specifically to separate us. They thought that when I returned from there, I would forget my fiancé and marry someone richer. But everything turned out completely differently. It was there, in the north, that I fell seriously ill in the male part, froze, and then was never able to have children. I made a career, built a business, but never got married, kept looking for someone like Stella, but never found one. So I adopted Emily from the shelter. But it turns out I have a son. We need to do a genetic examination, but I'm almost sure it's you, Michael. You are my son. Lord, how ashamed I am. Almost killed my own son. Forgive me if you can. Michael was shocked. Everything he heard did not fit into his head. He looked at the businessman with all his eyes and muttered, Well, I don't know. Mom never said anything about my father, sometimes muttering that he was a polar explorer. I thought she was telling me fairy tales, but it turns out there was some truth in her words. I need to comprehend everything. You will forgive me, but I'm not ready to call you Dad yet. Give me time. And in general, all this is not yet certain. Eugene suddenly began to beg, Daughter, Emily, Michael, come home. The mansion is huge. It's much more comfortable there with 3 kids, and it's a joy for me. Well, I can't be there alone. It's sickening, even the howl of a wolf. I promise, no more interference. Live as you want. If only it were nearby. The young people thought about the proposal and agreed. Indeed, why throw away money for renting an apartment when you have your own house? The genetic examination confirmed the relationship between Eugene and Michael, but despite this, their relationship did not work out right away. The guy didn't trust the businessman for a long time. He kept waiting for some kind of trick or reproach from him. But time passed, and Eugene really changed a lot. He was no longer ashamed but proud of his family. He tried with all his might to establish a relationship with his son. He helped him restore his documents and got him a job in his company, for now as a manager. He taught everything from the basics, and their close daily communication bore fruit. Soon, father and son became truly close people. They consulted with each other, respected everyone's opinion, and finally, warmth arose between them. But the businessman didn't forget about his adopted daughter either. On the contrary, he now praised Emily, trying to show how much he appreciated and loved her. Their family became truly united and friendly, and within 6 months, it was decided to have a grand wedding. Now the businessman didn't care what people would talk about them. He didn't care about gossip now. The main thing was that everyone was happy, and the rest was so unimportant. The children grew up and brought joy. Michael turned out to be the most faithful and devoted, the most caring husband and daddy, and Emily never regretted that she once so spontaneously and on a whim chose this particular man as a husband and father, first for fun, and then for real, for life. This doesn't happen in life.